Hello everyone, this is Ms. Smith, and the purpose of this video is to discuss short reports, proposals, and memos. Now we have the proposal memo assignment coming up soon, but Chapter 8 in the textbook covers short reports and proposals together. And so before we get to the proposals part, we need to understand short reports, because a proposal oftentimes is a type of short report. And then, like I said, we will later talk about memos, which can be found in Chapter 4. And all of this will prepare us for the proposal memo assignment. Now, I'm recording this video specifically for you all because you were not in class. And so I will go over a lot of what we went over in class, and then I will also go over the assignment guidelines for the proposal memo. Okay? And so if you have additional questions after this video, please let me know. See me during office hours. Send me an email or call my office. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And so what is a short report? A short report, also known as an informal or sometimes a semi-formal report, is an organized presentation of relevant data on any topic. Okay, a lot of times in the workplace it can include a report of work that's being completed, schedules that are being met, costs that have been contained, sales projections that are being met, or unexpected problems that have been solved. Okay, and so a lot of times short reports are used for those reasons, and they're used often in the workplace. Okay, and so of course if there's something known as a short report, there's something known as a long report. We're not doing a long report in this class, but a long report can be hundreds of pages long. Okay, a short report can be tens of pages long. It's kind of relative to the field that you're in. So depending on where you're working, a short report could be 10 to 12 pages, or a short report can be 2 to 3 pages. Okay, depending on what you're doing, a long report can be hundreds of pages, or a long report can be under 20 pages, right? And so it just depends on what you're doing and where you're working and what is standard for where you are. And so there are 6 types of short reports, 6 common types. And so we have 5 of them listed here. One is not listed, but I will tell you about that one. So we have periodic reports, sales reports, progress reports, travel reports, incident reports, and employee activity reports, which is number 6. Okay, that's not included here. A periodic report provide readers with information at regularly scheduled intervals. Okay, so it's a regular thing that you would have to provide this report. That would be a periodic report. If you're in a situation where you're periodically having to update your supervisor or your team, that would be an example of a periodic report. A sales report is probably the most common type of report in terms of short reports, and it provides businesses with financial and managerial information. Okay, and so how the sales numbers are looking, the projections, things like that can be included as a sales report. Then we have progress reports. So whereas periodic reports are regularly scheduled, progress reports may only happen once or twice in the life of a project, but they inform readers about the status of ongoing projects. Travel reports document business trips and how they affect ongoing or future business. So if you've ever worked at a place where you've had to use your own transportation at work, you probably have had to complete some type of a mileage report. That mileage report would allow you to put in the miles that you used and to be reimbursed for the miles that you've spent traveling for the job. And so that would be an example of a travel report. Incident reports are very common in fields like criminal justice and the medical field, various forms of the medical field, but it's also common in other types of industries as well. And so it outlines unexpected events that interfere or threaten normal, safe business operations. Usually when you have an incident report, it comes on the heels of something that has happened that has been unexpected or dangerous, or something that needs to be very carefully documented. And that 6th type of short report is an employee activity report, and that is as it sounds. It's a report of that employee's activity, right? And so maybe if you are leading a committee of people for a specific task, you all may have different assignments that you're doing. to kind of work together, right, toward the main goal. You may ask for an employee activity report so that you know what everybody is kind of doing, right, and in terms of meeting that goal. And so those are the 6 types of short reports. So the book talks about guidelines for writing short reports. And you always want to anticipate how the audience will use your report. You always want to consider your audience. Now that is a common theme, has been a common theme throughout everything we've talked about this semester. You want to make sure you consider your audience. Write for your reader and not for yourself, right? You want to consider what the audience needs from the information that you're communicating. You want to make sure that you consider what the audience already knows, what the audience does not know, and their level of technicality, right? Are they able to understand the technical terminology that you might know because you're trained in it? And if they're not, then you risk using jargon and losing your audience. And so always anticipate what your audience needs. Do the necessary research. Remember our technical writing triangle. In that triangle, you, the communicator, you're the informed writer, right, or the informed communicator. And so you have a practical purpose for communicating to a specific audience, right, that may have diverse needs. And so you want to make sure that you set yourself up to be informed, right? You want to make sure that you do the research that you need to do. Take careful notes, record all necessary background information, collect data, interview key people if that's what's required, so that you are making sure that you're informed. Okay? Be objective and ethical. When we talk about being objective, we talk about being fair and not interjecting your impressions or your unsupported personal opinions. Instead, you want to rely on careful research, avoid biased or skewed or incomplete data, and double check all facts and figures and specifications. Some more guidelines include organizing your work carefully, including a purpose statement with findings, a conclusion, and recommendations. Number 5, using reader-centered headings and bullets and numbering. And we talked about this a little bit with the readings from the visuals chapter, right? Document design is very, very important, okay? The look of your document will reflect directly on the creator of the document, which would be you. And so your credibility can go down if your document is not well done. Okay, you want to write clearly and concisely, of course, and you want to use appropriate format and visuals. Okay, if you select a visual for your short report in the workplace, right, you want to make sure that it's the right kind of visual that will communicate exactly what it is you need it to communicate. Okay, and so this part talks about the different types of reports in more detail, and I actually am not going to cover that in this video. But if you have questions, I want you to please let me know. We didn't cover it in class either, but all of that's contained in the reading, so if you have specific questions, let me know. I want to get to proposals, okay? A proposal is a detailed plan of action that a writer submits to a reader or group of readers for approval. So whenever you're writing a proposal, most often there's going to be some reader on the other side of that proposal who will need to give you approval for what it is that you're asking for or that you're requesting to do. Okay, and so typically in the workplace you may have to give a proposal. Let's say you work for a company that wants to be hired for a contracting job that maybe the city or the county government is putting out for bid. You may have to submit a proposal packet with that. And in that proposal packet, you're going to try to convince that company, that business, that organization that they should select you. They should hire you to do that work. And so with a proposal, a lot of times you are trying to sell, in a manner of speaking, your company, your services, your skills, so that you receive whatever it is that they're offering. Okay, and so proposals can vary in size and scope. They can be as short as a sales letter or as long as hundreds of pages. And it's important to note that proposals are persuasive in nature. They are persuasive plans. So in other words, like I said a moment ago, you are trying to convince your audience, convince your reader, convince the person who will be making the decision that they should select you or your company for whatever it is that you're seeking. Okay, and so you want to make sure you understand the audience's needs and problems and formulate a careful, detailed plan to solve those needs and problems. You'll need to identify the problem, right? Restate it at least so that the reader knows that you understand what it is that they are after. But then you also want to make sure that you propose a solution, and the solution would be selecting you, right? Using your services or your company so that they can accomplish what it is that they're looking to do. And sometimes it's not just you going out trying to get hired for something. It could be you trying to convince someone to select you for something that would benefit you in a more personal way, right? And so we'll see that in our assignment for the proposal memo. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Proposals are frequently collaborative efforts. So in the workplace, it is not likely that only one person would work on a large-scale proposal. Usually there are numerous people working on a proposal. Okay? Just FYI. Okay, and so guidelines for writing a successful proposal. Approach writing a proposal as a problem-solving activity. Like I said, typically there is some problem, some need that exists, and the proposal is trying to address that need. Regard your audience as skeptical. Okay, a lot of times, especially in the workplace, the person who may be seeking the proposal may have encountered a lot of different people who may not have been very ethical, or who may not have been able to complete the job that they say that they were going to do. And so unfortunately, you may have to overcome some of that skepticism, right? And you may have to prove that you are the best person for the job, that you can do what is asked, that you can get the job done well, you can get the job done on time and at the right cost. All of that is important to the reader. You want to research your proposal topic thoroughly, scout out what your competitors are doing in an ethical way, right? Prove that your proposal is workable, right? That it's doable, it's something you can actually accomplish. Be sure your proposal is financially realistic, okay? You don't want your cost for something to be so far above everybody else's that it knocks you out the running. Be ethical. Make sure that if you're presenting data or information, that it is accurate information, that you've not changed anything to suit your own needs. Make sure that you're being ethical. And package your proposal attractively. Again, the look of your documents matter. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you're thinking through that as well with whatever communication you're doing. That's a document type of communication, but you always want to think about that, right? Make sure that your information looks good, that it's packaged well, that you're using appropriate subheadings, and that your text is the right size and the right style, and that you have put together a professional looking document. That is important to the reader. The book talks about internal proposals, and I'm not going to cover that in a lot of detail, but if there is such a thing as an internal proposal, of course, there's such a thing as an external proposal. I will note that an internal proposal typically will only happen within the workplace, right? Or within an organization. It's internal, it's between coworkers. But the external proposals a lot of times are those that go beyond the workplace, right? You're not communicating coworker to coworker, you're communicating maybe coworker or employee to client, right? Or something that's beyond the scope of your workplace, okay? And so ethically identifying and resolving readers' problems. So when you prepare an internal proposal, and again, this is the one at the job, between coworkers, you need to be aware of the ethical obligations you have. And here are some guidelines to consider. You want to think about the implications of your plan company-wide. So you may have this great idea and you may be ready to submit this proposal, but you have to think about how it will impact different members of your organization company-wide, especially if you're in a place of authority at the company. You never want to make a decision without getting a sense of whether the people would be receptive to it, whether they need it, whether they are looking forward to the change, maybe they don't want it, maybe it's not necessary, right? And so you want to consider the implications of your plan company-wide. Keep in mind what impact your change may have for coworkers from cultural traditions other than your own. And so this is really important, right? If someone's traditions or culture is different, sometimes the decisions that we make can affect that. So keep that in mind as well. And never ever submit an internal proposal that offers some grand idea that you think will work, but relies on someone else to get it done or to supply the specific details. If it is your idea, ideally you would be leading the charge for it. You would be the one in the trenches getting it done. You don't want to come up with this great idea that would put more work on someone else, right? You want to make sure that it's something that you can participate with and possibly take a lead in, okay? So that you're sharing that workload if your proposal is accepted, okay? This part talks about organization of an internal proposal, and then we'll talk about sales proposals for just a little bit, but we're coming to the end of this soon because we're going to get to talking about memos. And so an internal proposal follows a straightforward plan from identifying the problems to solving it. Internal proposals typically contain four parts: the purpose, the problem, the solution, and the conclusion. So typically, when you are creating a proposal, whether it's just a few pages or whether it's hundreds of pages, it usually has all of these components. You begin your proposal with a brief statement of purpose, why you're writing it, why you are seeking to submit this proposal. Then there's the problem. Prove that a problem exists and document its importance, avoiding vague generalizations and including quantifiable details. So when I say vague generalizations, what I mean is, for example, let's say you tell your supervisor that, um, you know, we need a new photocopier machine in the workroom because everybody in my department hates it. Okay, that's a vague generalization. That doesn't give a whole lot of good, solid information. However, if you said that I polled the people in my department, and out of 15 people in my department, 11 people have serious issues with the copier machine because it takes too long to get anything done and it slows down productivity. Now you have a little bit more to go on with that. Okay, that's something that's more quantifiable. You can put numbers to it to see the effect something is having. So if you're trying to identify the problem, you always want to aim for something that's a little bit more quantifiable versus something that's just vague in general. The solution. Now that you've identified the problem, you want to make sure that you propose the solution, right? And that's the heart of it all, right? You have a solution that you think will work. Either you are the solution, your company is the solution, or you have an idea that's the solution and you think that will work. Describe the change you propose and tie it directly with the problem you've just documented. The conclusion. Keep the conclusion short, okay? Re-emphasize that there is a problem, that change is justified, and that action needs to be taken. So a lot of this is common practice with internal proposals, right? Things happening coworker to coworker. Let's look quickly at sales proposals, okay? Like I said before, sales proposal is the most common type of proposal. Its purpose is to sell your company's products or services for a set fee. The audience is typically a skeptical decision-making executive who may ask, does the writer's firm understand our problem? Can the writer's firm deliver the services it promises? Can the job be completed on time? Is the budget reasonable and realistic? Will the job be done exactly as proposed? How has the reader demonstrated his or her trustworthiness? Okay, and so again, that trustworthiness speaks to credibility. Okay, that speaks directly to credibility. Even if you don't know the person directly, you don't know the person personally. They want to believe that you are trustworthy, that you are credible, that you are trained, that you are prepared, that you are able, that you have the equipment you need, that you can get this job accomplished and you can do it in the right way, with the right timetable, and for the right amount. That's typical with the sales proposal. That's typically what the audience is looking for, the reader is looking for. Okay, and so if we look specifically at the organization of sales proposals, and we're talking about this since this is the most common type of proposal, because again, there are other types of proposals that we could also be talking about. But most sales proposals include the following elements. It includes an introduction, right? And the introduction should prepare readers for everything that follows. It should include a statement of purpose and subject of the proposal, as well as background on the problem you propose to solve. Okay, so that introduction, it's kind of like an abstract, right? Just kind of like that nice overview at the beginning. Then the description of the proposed product or service. This is the heart of the proposal. Carefully show potential employers that your product or service is right for them. Describe your work in suitable detail and stress any special features, advantages, or benefits. Okay? You also want to include a timetable. Indicate when the work will begin, how the work will be divided into stages, when you will be finished, and whether any follow-up will be involved. It's also to consider costs. Make your budget accurate, complete, and convincing. Give customers more than bottom line costs. Itemize costs for services, equipment and materials, labor, transportation, travel, and training. Make it specific so that they know exactly how the money will be used. Qualifications of your company. Okay, so this kind of goes back to that trustworthiness factor. You want to emphasize your company's accomplishments and expertise in providing similar products or services. Okay, you want to emphasize that your company is the right company. Your company is prepared to get the work done. And in conclusion, this is the call to action section of your proposal. Provide encouragement, offer to answer questions, and possibly ask the reader to sign to accept your proposal, depending on what you're writing and to whom you're writing. Okay, so those are key elements of sales proposals. So now let's recap really quickly. Okay, we've talked about chapter 8, some of the key elements of chapter 8. We started off talking about short reports in our path to get to proposals. Okay, a proposal can be a type of short report, which is why they're together in the same chapter. So I wanted to talk about short reports to kind of get an understanding of what those are, and then we talked about proposals specifically to get us ready for the proposal memo assignment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about memos, okay? Because as I just said, this is a proposal memo, so we want to make sure we understand that as well. And so in chapter 4, we've been there before, right? We've been there when we did our letters. So chapter 4 deals with preparing correspondence, and that includes letter writing. It included email communication, electronic communication, and it also included memos. Now we only focused our attention before on letters because that's the assignment we were working toward, and we did the customer relations letter and the inquiry letter. But now we're coming back to this chapter because we want to get some information on memos, okay? And memos will be really important to learn about. And so memo is short for memorandum, okay? Memo is short for memorandum. And it comes from a Latin term for something to be remembered. It's kind of the way it's kind of come about. And if you have your book nearby, turn to page 135. Now if you need to pause this and get your book, do that, because I do want us to go through and look at an example of a memo. Okay, so hopefully you have your book ready now, and we're on page 135 in the textbook. And so that is an example of a standard memo format. Standard memo format, okay? And so we see what it looks like. We have memo written at the very top of the page. Okay, that's very typical in the workplace. Whenever you're sending a memo, usually the word memo is at the top to identify it. That's one of the key ways you can identify it, right? Simple enough. But another way you can identify a memo is from its heading. And so we notice it says to, from, date, subject. That type of heading is very typical with a memo. You usually have those 4 lines, maybe another line or two after that, but those are typically on memos. To, from, date, and then subject. Sometimes instead of subject, it will say RE, meaning regarding, and that's the same thing as saying what is this memo about, right? What is the point of this? What is this about? And so that's an example of a memo. I'll point out a couple of other quick things. I want you to make sure that you're understanding that a memo and a letter are two completely different things. Memos and letters are two different things, and the formatting of them are completely different as well. And so with a letter, you'll remember we had the inside address, which was the recipient's address. We don't have that on a memo. There's no need to put that on a memo. Okay, with a letter, we also had the complimentary closing at the bottom. Sincerely, so and so, right? There's no need to put that on a memo, okay? Because you have who it's coming from up in the header at the top of the memo. In a memo, or excuse me, in a letter, we had also a salutation. Dear so-and-so, right? There's no need to include that in a memo. And so there are some formatting things that make a memo much different from a letter. And we want to be mindful of that so that we're not confusing the two and putting in information in a memo that does not need to be there. Okay? And so making sure you can identify a memo is really important as well. Okay? And now I should say this also. Memos are typically the type of correspondence that happens in the workplace. Now, there can be memos that go beyond the workplace. That can happen. But typically, when you have a memo, the memo is happening within the workplace. Okay? And so that means it's going coworker to coworker. So you may send a memo about a meeting that's coming up. Or you may send a memo about a holiday picnic or a holiday party or something like that, something that's employee related. And so your memos tend to be things that happen coworker to coworker. But there are instances when memos can be sent outside of the organization. A lot of times though, when you need to communicate outside of the organization, you would just send a letter as opposed to sending a memo. And so memo protocol, you want to make sure that you are being timely, you're being professional, tactful, and that you're sending the memos to the appropriate people. So when I say be timely, what we mean is this. You want to give your audience enough time to be able to respond and take the appropriate action. And so if let's say you're having to schedule a meeting, you don't want to send a memo out to let people know about the meeting on the day of the meeting, right? Because that's not going to be a lot of time for them to prepare. Instead, you want to be timely. You want to give enough time, a couple of days out, to give them time to plan, to rearrange their schedule, to do what they need to do to prepare to be able to attend. Now, yes, there are those instances when you have emergency meetings or things happen at the last minute and you just have to kind of go with it. But typically, you should aim to be timely with your memo correspondence. Definitely be professional in your language and in your wording. Be tactful. So what do we mean by tactful? Being tactful means being polite and diplomatic and knowing how to say something. There's an old saying that you can say anything, it's just how you say it. Okay? And so one example that we used in class was instead of saying to someone, I don't like that purple sweater on you, right? A better way to say it, if you had to say something, would be, I like the green sweater a lot better, right? Or I think the green sweater looked really good on you would even be a better way to say that. And so being tactful, knowing how to say things is really important. And you're aiming to not offend, to not insult the person that you're talking to or others, right? And so being tactful again means being diplomatic, choosing your words carefully, and knowing how to say what it is that you need to say and being polite. Okay, and you want to send the memo to the appropriate people. If you send it to someone and it doesn't pertain to them, they probably will take a moment to read it, and it will be a waste of their time, right? And you don't want to do that. So in terms of memo audience style and tone, before you write your memo, think about the audience needs, right? Of course. And these are just some questions that you can consider as well. When did it happen? Is it on, ahead, or behind schedule? Who was involved? Where did it take place? Why is it an important topic? Costs, technology, and what's next. Okay, and so when you're having to write a memo, these are just some things that can be circulating in your mind, information that the audience may need that you may also need to supply to them. Okay, memos do vary in format. They can be generic or pre-printed with the company name and logo, and they can be circulated in hard copy or via email. So a memo can travel in either way. Because memos are sent to individuals within a company, they do not need to include the formalities included in business letters. I just mentioned that, such as inside address, salutation, complimentary. Okay, so we just went over all of that a minute ago. And so memos consist of two parts: the identifying information at the top, we talked about that too, the to, from, date, and subject, and then the message itself. Okay, so I guess I got ahead of myself, but that's just a recap of what we just talked about. And finally, we want to think about some strategies for organizing a memo. Now that we know what a memo is, what its purpose is, how it's formatted, some strategies. So again, we're back to this ABC type of format, right? Where we have our abstract or our introduction, our body, and our conclusion. And like I said at the beginning of the class period, ABC format is going to blanket various types of communication that we do. Okay, and so we are applying it to various types of communication, from our voicemail assignment all the way now to our memo assignment, our proposal memo. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you consider that. Tell the reader clearly about the issue or policy, explain any background information the reader needs to know, and be specific about what you're going to accomplish in your memo. Okay, in the body or discussion, you want to state why a problem or procedure is important and who will be affected by it, indicate why changes are necessary, and give precise dates and times, locations, and costs. And of course, with the conclusion, you want to ask readers to call you if they have questions, request a reply, and provide a list of recommendations. So there are strategies for organizing various things. Okay, including memos, including proposals, strategies for just organizing things. But just keep what we've talked about here in mind as you are getting ready to start on that proposal memo assignment, which we will look at now. Okay, and so let's take a look at what it is I need you to do with this assignment. Okay, just a second. Okay, and so with the proposal memo assignment, what I want you to do is this. So let's take a look at the assignment overview, and this is on D2L. So here at the beginning of this assignment overview, I just recap some of what was in the textbook with writing winning proposals around page 323 to 324, and talking about how proposals are persuasive plans. Okay, so again, a proposal is a detailed plan of action submitted to a reader or group of readers for approval. So in creating this assignment, you're communicating and you're seeking approval. Okay, the readers are usually in a place of authority: supervisors or managers or department heads, company buyers, elected officials, military or civic leaders, to endorse, approve, or reject the plan. Your proposal must convince these readers that your plan will help them improve their business, save them money, enhance their image, improve customer satisfaction, make the environment safer, or all of these. Okay, so that's your aim with the proposal. You're seeking approval. Okay, proposal memos are persuasive plans, so we talked about that too, right? So proposals, whether large or small, must be highly persuasive to succeed. Your proposals must convince readers that your plan is relevant, practical, based upon careful research, and designed to benefit the reader and his or her company. Every proposal you write must exhibit a can-do attitude, putting the reader and his or her company's needs at the center of your work. The tone of your proposal should be, here is what I can do for you. And I've taken this information from select sentences on page 324 in the textbook, so you can go back, of course, and read over that information for yourself. And so here's the assignment. Let's say, just for example, that your technical communication instructor knows a rich couple, the wealthiest couple in the entire state. And they have a soft spot for education, and they want to gift a sum of money to a student, something they call the Student Success Fund. This money would be used to purchase anything legal and decent that the student needs to help him or her make the college experience easier. For example, if the student is having transportation issues, the couple can purchase a car. If the student needs a brand new computer, the couple can purchase a computer. If the student needs specific pricey tools for their major, the couple can purchase the pricey tools, right? The amount of money is no issue. Any purchase is possible, of course, within reason. If you need a jet, you don't need a jet, right? You don't need a jet to get around Orangeburg, so, within reason. But here's the catch. The couple will only make this purchase for one student each semester, and they will determine who receives the money based on the proposal memo assignment. So here are the assignment details. Your task is to create a proposal memo explaining who you are, right? Telling them who you are, the problem you face, the solution, what it is you need, the cost of what you need, and providing a conclusion that offers a goodwill closing. Be sure to do the following. Use the proposal memo template document to create your assignment. We'll look at that in a second. Use the subheadings provided in the document and include the correct information under each subheading. Now, do not erase the subheading. It's already there for you. You just want to make sure that you type in the information that you need. Don't take out the subheadings. Your reader needs the subheadings, okay? Avoid grammatical errors. Be persuasive and be clear about what you're asking for. You need to convince your reader that you should receive the money. Submit your proposal memo assignment by deadline and refer to the syllabus for that deadline. So this overview document is on D2L for you to go back and refer to. Okay. Now here is the memo template. It'll look a little bit different on D2L, but it's the same type of thing. Okay. And so this is what I want you to use to create your proposal memo assignment. And so given the scenario that I've just gone over, I want you to include each and every one of these subheadings. Okay, I want you to state, first of all, let's go back. I want you to use this, right? Don't change anything. Just go ahead and plug your name in here, right? Or excuse me, the recipient's name here. You can make up a name. It's coming from you, right? You can select the date for the proposal memo, and then you could just leave this as it is with proposal memo assignment. So you can create a name for the rich couple. Okay, or you can send it to me. Either way is fine because it's going to kind of go through me to get to them. Either way it's fine. Okay, and so your first aspect here is the purpose. First thing I want you to do is state the purpose of your memo. And of course your goal is to be selected to receive the donation of money from the Student Success Fund. The background section. In this section, explain who you are. You want to persuade the reader that you are a good person and a hardworking student who deserves to be considered and selected to receive this money. And I'm talking about more than I'm a student here, I'm studying this field, and I'm from this place, and I could really use the money. Kind of go in a little bit more detail. You don't have to say anything too personal, but try to convince them that you are the person that they want to give the money to. The problem. Explain any challenges that can keep you from being successful in college, right? Because that's the nature of what they're trying to look for. Relate this section to the item that you need that you think will help you to be successful. And then in the solution section, the solution would be whatever item you're asking the rich couple to purchase for you. Explain how receiving this item will eliminate the challenges you mentioned in the problem section and help you achieve student success. And then cost. Be specific about the cost of the item that you need. Include an exact cost for the item. So if you need them to buy you a car, You need to get an exact cost for that car. Go online, look for the car, try to figure out the exact cost for the car so that they know exactly how much money to give to you if your proposal is accepted and selected. Finally, conclusion. Thank the readers for their time and consideration, and then offer an additional goodwill closing, because in this case, they are probably, possibly, maybe going to give you a lot of money for what it is you're asking for. Okay, so for this proposal memo, you are trying to create a proposal that that will that will indicate that you are the person who needs to receive this money, to receive this information. Okay, and so if you have questions, please let me know, and I will be available during office hours, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Okay, hopefully this has been helpful. Take care.